Namaste.
I knew you were going to put these two things together, I was just waiting. Beatitudes.
Thought I'd go for the Beatitudes? Yeah, I was kind of wondering what I was going to do myself. Well, I thought about the Ten Commandments, but I think the Ten Commandments are pretty useless on almost every level. Because we don't understand how much the ancient Jewish culture hedged on the Ten Commandments. We've talked before about how adultery was a problem because your wife was your property, not because adultery fractured your relationship. And how you were supposed to do no murder of other Jewish people, but you could kill all the aliens you wanted. And even if you accidentally killed a Jewish person, if you could make it to a city of refuge, it was like, what did you call that in hide and seek when you could get back where you were safe?
Oh, yeah.
Ghoul?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
Ghoul. That's what we always call them.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
You know.
just what about safe haven.
So well, sometimes it was home base or,
Oh, okay.
but it was this idea that there was always a place you could go where nobody could tag you and you'd be it. Only if you murdered somebody, their relatives had the right to tag you in a way that was a little more permanent, unless you got to the city of refuge. And we can pretty much go down the line and show how every one of the Ten Commandments, if you were one of God's chosen people, had an out for you. And so for that's reason number one why I don't think the Ten Commandments are very useful contemporarily, because we distort them and misunderstand them and apply them in ways they were never intended to be applied. And the second reason, that's probably more important, is that we, it's completely gone. Oh, is that you can't change a person, their inside, by changing their outside. In other words, establishing a bunch of rules seldom transforms people. If I say to you, don't do this, don't do that, don't do that, and I have, let's just say, 10 of them, it doesn't change your heart. It teaches you how to stay out of trouble. It's like the kid in grade school or high school that knows the rules real well and obeys all of the written rules, but knows how to push against this, what we would call the spirit of the law. So, I never lied, but I'm really emotionally very bullying of my peers. But I didn't lie, So I think that's another reason the Ten Commandments for most people are pretty useless, because what they're trying to get is conformity, but you're not going to get conformity unless we can change your heart. And then if we change your heart, you won't need the rules. It's kind of like any board game or most other games. Once you know the rules and you've internalized them and you understand the spirit of the game, you don't really need to refer to the rule book too often, because you can pretty much figure out what's cheating and what isn't. Just because you understand the spirit of the game. And the Beatitudes and the Eightfold Path are about the spirit of the game, if you will. Particularly since neither one demands perfection. You could break the commandment that says do no murder, and once you've broken it, all the excuses and ways out and cheats, or what today we would say there were hacks, right? The hipsters would say there's hacks for the Ten Commandments. But once you break them, you've broken them, and you can't unbreak them.
Are you sure there's not an app for that?
There may be an app for that too. That'll make this into a phone. But, that's an inside joke kind of. But, the Eightfold Path and the Beatitudes are things you work toward. And so it's not a case of I'm either going to get it completely right. Those are kind of the choices, right? The Ten Commandments, it's you either get them completely right, or you make one mistake and you've shot the whole thing. Whereas the idea of precepts, which the Eightfold Path are not the Buddhist precepts, but precepts are inherent in the Beatitudes and the Eightfold Path. They're things you work toward. And there's a recognition that you're not going to be perfect at it, because, well, you're human. And that's okay. It's like learning a new skill. When somebody's learning to play the piano, they don't hit all the notes right every time. In fact, no matter how accomplished a musician you are, every once in a while, you will, yeah, not even a clunker, but maybe a note that you intended not to hit. But maybe that's the beauty of live performance, is that you get that included too, unless it's, just thonk. And I don't know if you saw this, there's a kid on Facebook who's sort of a charming looking young man. And he's got his back to a piano, somebody's sitting at the piano. And they start out playing single notes, and the kid says, B flat. And then he goes on to playing two different notes, a couple octaves apart, and the kid names the notes. And then he switches to chords, and they're discordant chords, and the kid can still name them. And I think he's like 10 or something. Did you see that?
Yeah.
Really obnoxious. Anyway, really talented. But most of us aren't that way, right? So there's something about us that wants to be perfect and doesn't recognize that it's process, it's journey, it's moving toward. And so, for example, right understanding isn't that you're going to understand everything perfectly. It's that you're going to be motivated to move towards seeing things more clearly. And the way that you do that in Buddhism is understanding karma, or what they call in the reading the law of cause and effect, and the Four Noble Truths. Right speech is interesting to me right now, especially because here it says avoiding lying, gossip, harsh speech, and tale-telling, but now some science has said that gossip serves a positive function in our lives.
Mm-hmm.
So Buddhism, unlike traditional Christianity, would say, well, maybe we need to somehow adjust this gossip thing, qualify it somehow.
Yeah, mischievous or,
Yeah, malicious.
malicious, that was a weird thing.
And how do you reconcile avoid lying with harsh speech if telling the truth is going to have some pretty harsh effects?
Yeah, the old, does this dress make me look fat?
I don't know, I don't think you should wear them.
Well, I wear them sometimes.
Okay, that's fine.
And I try and choose the one that's the most slimming, but still nobody ever, I think, asked, does this whatever make me look fat? Wanting an honest answer, because there's already some doubt in their mind. I've never asked, does this make me look fat, if I haven't looked in the mirror first and gone, holy cow. So sometimes you're right. There's truth-telling that's vicious, and then there's truth-telling that takes a person's feelings into consideration, and also asks, what's the consequence of me not being completely truthful? I gave a guy a ride to work the morning after the holiday party, and he asked me if I could smell booze on him. Still. Well, yeah, I could, but what good is it going to do at this point? He's in the car on the way to work, for me to say, well, really, only a lot. It wasn't that bad. But, there's some times, what are you going to do? And so, for most of us, if it's an all or nothing deal, not only is it not transformative, it's discouraging. If you have to go out in the backyard and you're a kid trying to learn how to play basketball, and you have to make 100 shots without missing, you're going to give up on basketball pretty quick. And some of us, when we're filling parental roles, try to teach in ways, or any other teaching role, that aren't very helpful and are really discouraging. So maybe, to coin a term from a movie, maybe it's about baby steps. Maybe it's about saying, okay, right livelihood. Most people's jobs are not completely white or black. If I work building nuclear weapons, that's pretty clearly not right livelihood. On the other hand, if I have a family that's dependent on my income, this isn't suggesting I go in tomorrow and quit because I don't have right livelihood.
Yeah.
It's suggesting that I work toward a solution.
Mhm.
And it's much more effective. Because it's not somebody on the outside saying, here's what you must do. It's somebody on the outside perhaps saying, here are the values. Now how do you think you're called to live them out? And so you have authentic transformation. What does it take? And for example, right speech could be recast as having speech that's essentially kind. You know, so what does it really take to say hello to somebody on the street? And in some cities, that's not a good idea, but what does it really take to just have a kind word for somebody? I picked up a couple of work last night from a party of some sort, and they had, it was 2 of them and a rat. Well, I think it was a dog.
His rat terrier.
I don't know what it was. It weighed about 2 pounds. And it had its own stroller. Really special. But I didn't say, what are you, nuts? I mean, I might have thought, you have a stroller for a dog, but that wouldn't have been kind. And so, you know, I said hi to the dog and took him home. But even in me stopping to think, that's not a dog, that's a rat. There's a certain, maybe lack of kindness inherent in that, but you transform in steps. So you think the thought and you don't say it.
Yeah.
And then hopefully at some point you look at the little 2-pound dog that you used to think you could duct tape to a stick and use as a mop. And instead into your mind pops, oh, how cute. But that's authentic transformation, because what's changing is our hearts. And I think we shy away from it because it's just too simple. It seems too easy. And it also takes too long, which is, those are strange bedfellows, right? Simple and taking too long. But we'd much rather have either complex solutions, the idea that some deity is going to swoop down from on high and force us to change. And it's just not how it works. Even the Beatitudes, and this is kind of a strange translation that I have a love-hate relationship with, but happy are people who are hopeless because the kingdom of heaven is theirs. I don't much like the happy. But I think these things too refer to processes. Because if we've lost all hope, we're left with surrender. And we're left with letting go. And we're left with not being attached to the outcome. And that is moving toward a deeper spiritual place. And I'm especially struck this time looking at these about happy are those who grieve in here because they will be made glad. We think that's counterintuitive, but how many people do we know that have resisted grieving? And they're miserable. You know, sooner or later you have to face it. And so there's great similarity here. And the other thing that I'm really struck with in contemporary culture in these readings is contemporary religion, popular religion anyway, seems to want to say, go out fault hunting. You know,
Yeah,
some
okay.
people hunt deer, some people hunt pheasant, some people fish, others hunt flaws in others, and try and force conformity in others. And what that does, of course, is it keeps us so busy we can't look at our own stuff. If I'm so busy scouring the world for error, I'm never going to see my own, and I promise you it's there in all of us. And can we shift it? And I think the way we start shifting it is we at least adopt some practices that force us to look at ourselves. Was I as kind as I could have been there? Was I as generous in so many ways as I could have been there? Did I take the time to understand what that person was saying to me? It's all so simple, it's all so basic, but it's also so much more effective than running down the street screaming at somebody, "You're doing that wrong," you know?
Yeah.
And what underlies that is anger. And the funny thing about the Eightfold Path and the Beatitudes is that they undercut anger as well. We cannot get to the place where we're kind, generous, forgiving, in more contemporary language, cut people some slack, don't mention their dog is smaller than a rat, unless we let go of that anger and that hostility that our culture is just chock full of. And we may have every right to be angry and hostile, but that doesn't mean it's good for us. And so there has to be the beginning of a change. And my wife is looking at me, smiling and knowing. She's saying, "That's right. Do you hear yourself?"
I was just thinking the same thing.
You asked
My
me.
husband.
But it's true. I mean, I recognize that and acknowledge that. And I think maybe, just maybe, what becomes the biggest barrier of all is that when things aren't working out the way we think they should, when, even if we recognize that the world isn't perfect, eventually we develop an anger in our spiritual relationship. Whether you want to say, "I'm angry at God," "I'm angry at the universe," "I'm angry at Pastor Bob for wearing Bermuda shorts," whatever it is, that's the fundamental anger we need to let go of.
Yeah.
And the only way to do it is to be gentle with ourselves. And there's no disciplinarian, external or internal, that was ever gentle with anybody.